long minute. Let's call to order the August 13th, 2019 meeting of the Nevada County Board of Supervisors, coming to you today from Truckee. It's our annual Truckee meeting. So let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Bill Ludegeese, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bill. Madam Clerk, are there any corrections or deletions to the agenda?
None that I'm aware of, Chairman Anderson.
Thanks very much. Our first item is the acceptance of the 2019 Digital County Survey First Place Award. And, pardon me? Oh, public comment, sorry. Do we have any public comment on issues not on today's agenda? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and go into the scheduled items. The first one is the acceptance of the 2019 Digital County Survey First Place Award in association with the National Association of Counties. And we're going to have Heidi Hall do the initial introduction.
Thank you. Can you hear me all right? Yeah. Okay. So good morning, everyone. I was fortunate enough last month from July 12th to 15th to attend the National Association of Counties annual conference and exposition in Clark County, Nevada. And as a representative of the county, I had the opportunity to attend the awards dinner for the Digital County Survey Award Dinner on Saturday and accept the 2019 Digital County Survey First Place Award for populations up to 150,000 for our department's work the past year. Beginning in 2003, the Center for Digital Government and the National Association of Counties began honoring county governments across the United States that exhibit best technology practices, including initiatives that streamline delivery of services, promote collaboration and integrate services, enhance cybersecurity, and contribute to disaster recovery efforts. So Nevada County was recognized as one of the top 5 counties across the nation with a population of 150,000 or less for the last 15 years. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Alan Cox, the Executive Vice President of eRepublic, to talk a little bit more about this. Mr. Cox?
Thank you, Supervisor. Good morning. So, as the supervisor said, eRepublic and the Center for Digital Government, Government Technology magazine, where I serve as publisher, have been recognizing excellence in the use of technology in counties for a number of years. We've actually been publishing this magazine in Folsom, California since 1987, when putting government and technology together were 2 words where people looked at us and said, "You're really crazy." 2 boring things, government, technology. But it's really changed the game for counties, and we look at technology as a force multiplier, especially as we came out of the recession. Everybody was trying to do more with less. Some people would argue they were trying to do less with less. And it's been an interesting journey to see what counties have done. And digital counties have evolved to recognize the value of technology, empower their technology leaders, and use new ideas to make life better for everyone who does business or lives in the county. It's an annual survey. We do this annually so that we can see progression over time, and we try to pivot the survey as things change and as counties evolve. If everybody is doing the same thing, we stop worrying about it and say, we're done with that. You know, everybody has a website. Now what are they doing around experience on the website? Are they inclusive? Are they reaching all communities? Are they using different tools to reach? And how are they using that, the digital technology? So this county award for you all really focused on a number of different things. And as the supervisor said, we looked at leadership alignment. How is the leadership of the county supporting the use of technology, not just to have streaming in a council meeting, but to reach people and to really transform how people live and work? How are you governing the use of data? We have privacy legislation that is springing up nationally. This is a big debate about how do we use data more effectively and more efficiently, and it will continue to be an interesting journey following what the European Union did last year to protect individuals' privacy. California followed suit a month later, and the rest of the country is really trying to catch up. We also look at resilience, as the supervisor said, disaster recovery, continuity of operations. We live in a world full of technology, and you have to have the right tools in place so that you can work anywhere, as you are today. Being able to have a supervisors meeting in a city council chambers in another part of the state is a great example of being resilient and being able to move where you need to move. So we looked at a number of different areas as we judged each of the counties. And let me tell you a little bit about what we saw with Nevada County specifically, which is your accomplishments really parallel those of a larger county. It's very difficult in small government, 150,000 population or less as a county, or a small city, to fund and maintain a strong IT organization. IT is transforming business, and people who are talented in this area are snatched up at a moment's notice. And so doing this well is tough. So we looked at how you've leveraged technology. We looked at the new Ready Nevada County Fire Prevention Campaign. In fact, I reviewed it last night and thought about my home in El Dorado County on 5 acres with a lot of grass and brush, and said, do I meet the guidelines in that booklet? And I actually started looking outside and said, how far away is the shrub and brush? So it's a great tool that you provided to your citizens that I'm going to borrow, at least in El Dorado County. We also looked at the fact that you've done a GIS mapping of green waste drop sites, a mobile tool to track dead trees, evacuation route map for each community. This is all a great example of what you're doing. You've also got a fantastic citizen participation suite, Ask Nevada County. You've added more departments that are using this, and I would encourage you to just build this out. Citizen experience is actually one of the most important areas that we see in terms of using technology. In fact, we saw a recent survey from Accenture that said that individuals expect government to lead in experience, not follow the private sector, which is hard to imagine. It's the first time we've actually seen that sentiment. So continuing to build Ask Nevada County will be great. And then we looked at the Information Communications and Technology Strategic Plan that is out from 2017 to 2020. It's an example of great leadership. You have a roadmap, you're following it, you're funding it, and you're helping transform the county. So all of those were what we saw that showed you were above everybody else. And just to be consistent in this, it's very difficult. I noted that since 2014, the county has placed second or first every year. 2015 second, 2016 first, 2017 second, 2018 first, and 2019 first. You're very good at what you do. I really think Steve Monahan, your Chief Information Officer, has put together a wonderful team. So I congratulate you and that team. And again, we presented it a month ago. We present it to you as a group now today. Congratulations from the Center for Digital Government and Government Technology Magazine.
Mr. Cox, thanks very much.
Thank you. And if I could just say, I think there's poetic justice that I got to pick up that award for you, Steve, because I'm the one who's asked so many questions about how much money we're spending on IT. Clearly, we're spending it to do the right thing for our community. So it was really thrilling to find that out. And congratulations to your team.
Do other board members have comments or questions for either Mr. Cox or for Mr. Monahan? Ed, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say congratulations, Steve, to you and your team. Well deserved. Thank you.
Sue?
Well, I would just echo that. I think that it's exciting what we do in our community, and when we get right back to what Code Red is doing, and I watch how the folks in our community are utilizing these tools and our website. So yeah, I am thrilled. Thank you and congratulations, and we'll just keep moving forward for FIRST next year.
Yeah, when you really bring it into perspective, Nevada County, less than 100,000 people, and this is a national award, and you try and grasp the enormity of what Steve and his staff do as far as technology and the help of Allison and the CEO. It's just remarkable. And Mr. Cox, thank you for being here and recognizing the excellence that Nevada County has as far as technology.
You're very welcome.
And a critical point, which Mr. Cox had mentioned, is that this is not the first award for Nevada County. This is one of a number of awards. So hats off to Information Services, to Steve Monahan. He's done a phenomenal job. And with that, do we have any final public comment, or do we have any public comment on this issue? on this agenda item? Seeing none, let's close public comment. And if there is no additional discussion, let's do a motion to approve and authorize the chair to accept the 2019 Digital County Survey First Place Award.
So moved.
Second.
This is Madam Clerk, this is a voice vote, correct? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. So Mr. Cox, why don't you come up front again and we'll do a photo op.
Mr. Monahan, please join them.
Thank you, Steve. Steve, why don't you hold on to that? That's yours. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move into the consent calendar. These are items which are expected to be routine and non-controversial, and the board will act upon them at one time with no discussion. Would any board member care to pull any items from the consent calendar? Would any staff member care to pull any items from the consent calendar? Would any member of the public care to pull items from the consent calendar? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Madam Clerk?
District 2,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 1,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes. We'll go into our first department head matter, which is item 39. A resolution designating the Lake Tahoe Railway and Transportation Company, Truckee Railroad Station, located at 10065 Donner Pass Road in Truckee, as Nevada County Historical Landmark, NEV 19-03. So we'll have the agenda item introduced by Jeffrey Thorsby.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, members of the board. My name is Jeff Thorsby. I'm your Senior Management Analyst, and I have the distinct pleasure of working closely with historical landmarks, and I just want to thank folks for coming today to kind of provide some comment on this item, and also just want to highlight the work that the Historical Landmarks Commission does. They work tirelessly, and I see it at every meeting. So today before you is actually a resolution designating the Truckee Railroad Station as Nevada County Historical Landmark, NEV 19-3. And so I would like to pass it over to the Historical Landmarks Vice Chair, Barbara Sawinski, and then with her she also has Greg Zerbiel and Heidi Sprout. And Jerry Blackwell. Pardon my apologies. So if you guys want to go ahead and provide some comment.
Thank you. And we're pleased to receive this honor. The Lake Tahoe Railroad and Transportation Company was very instrumental in establishing tourism to Lake Tahoe, and as still, Truckee is the gateway to Lake Tahoe. So we're excited about having this monument in our railroad station. We will have 3. We'll have the Theodore Judah, and then the Transcontinental Railroad plaque from California, and then this one will make the 3rd one. We will have them around the railroad station as soon as it is remodeled. Thank you very much. And now I would like Greg, Heidi, and Jerry to come with me. Jerry represents the Railroad Society. Heidi and Greg represent the Truckee Donner Historical Society, and we all work together. Okay? And Richard, do you want us photo op?
Yes, but hold on a sec, please.
Yes.
Let's getting things organized here. Well, Barbara, I thought there was a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation. Is that not correct?
No.
Okay.
There is no.
Do members of the board have any questions or comments for the Historical Society? I'm sorry, for the Landmarks Commission.
Landmarks Commission.
I guess I could start. I think this is exciting. I think our history, because where we have been is how we got to where we are. And it's so important for us to remember that. Just driving up here even, I was thinking, I think I told Jeff, just to even imagine building the railroad system through these mountains as they did. So this is exciting, and congratulations.
Thank you. And this, as you know, marks the 150th year of the Transcontinental Railroad completion.
Ed?
Well, I was thinking maybe someone could give us just a little more detail on the particular railroad that we're talking about here, if you don't mind.
Oh, Jerry. Jerry's our expert historian.
Well, this is a fascinating little railroad that really had a lot to do with increasing tourism in the Lake Tahoe area. And there were a couple of things that happened with this railroad. First off, it was built from right here in Truckee down to Lake Tahoe. You could ride the train down there, then you could get on the steamer SS Tahoe, take a full tour around the lake, and even stay in a very nice hotel, the Tahoe Tavern. And this is all really sponsored by Dwayne L. Bliss, who was a lumberman who really wanted to bring tourism to the whole area. The second big thing that happened was the railroad was actually sold to the Southern Pacific in 1926. The big event about that was then the Southern Pacific could actually bring snow removal equipment. So instead of just having the railroad open in the non-winter years, or season, why this whole railroad was permitted to run during the winter season, which then triggered the boom, the tourism, the ski area, and everything like that to Granablocken, which had a ski area, and that whole area. So it really did a lot for the whole tourism business, just to kick that off. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. So many people are well aware of the Transcontinental Railroad, but
Right.
very few, I think, are recognize this particular line. I wasn't aware of it, so thank you.
Yes.
Could I ask one more question then too? When did it discontinue? And I know in like 1949 somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was 1943.
Jerry, into the mic, please.
Sorry.
Thanks.
It was in 1943 that it was discontinued, and at that time, why the roads were good enough, the automobiles were good enough, where they really were not economic, and that was the middle of World War II. They needed the steel for the war effort, so they pulled up the track, and that was in. Yeah.
Dan, any comments?
No, it's just one of these little facts about Tahoe, like Ed was saying, that, Truckee and Tahoe were connected. I had no idea that there was a narrow gauge railroad between. I'm sorry, between.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Oh, wow.
I know. And Fisher County. What in the heck is Fisher County, California? It says and I'd never heard of this before. It said a distance of 14 miles, partly within Nevada County and Fisher County, California.
Do we have
It's probably misspelling, Placer County, perhaps.
Is that?
I would guess that
It was Placer
Richard's
County.
correct. Yeah.
It was Placer.
I thought something else snuck in there that I didn't know about. And so.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, there's a historical photograph of an angler back in the, I think, late 19th century on the Truckee River which probably was Fisher County at that point in time, but now it's Placer.
Richard, okay.
And if you notice that photo, he's dressed to the nine with his basket, his creel, is that what you call it, creel?
Yes.
But anyway, if you look at Highway 89 from Truckee to Tahoe City, that's basically the route of the railroad. It became a trails to rail kind of highway now. Okay.
Great. Heidi?
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Honestly, I am always so sad that we shut any of these train ways down. It's a better use of our steel, frankly, and increases the joy of the pleasure of this place. So thank you for making sure that we remember it.
And Barbara, if you can, could you please give us the names of the members of the Landmarks Commission, the Historical Landmarks Commission, just so that they're properly recognized as part of this effort? I mean, you all do wonderful work for the county and for our constituents, and it'd be nice to give them some, a shout out.
Okay. There's Neil Locke, number 1, I believe, district number 1. 2 new members that I'm not familiar with. I can't remember their names. Our chair is Bernie Zimmerman and Eleanor Barnes and
Well, that's pretty good.
I know. Well,
Felicia.
Felicia. Tracy. Okay, and the 2 new gentlemen I just met last month, and I'm sorry I can't remember.
Oh, that's fine. And,
Okay.
and actually, I apologize for putting you on the spot, too.
Okay, I do have them written down. Anyway, we do meet once a month, and I frequently have not made it this year because I can't get over the pass because of snow. And that's why this morning I was kidding with Richard. I said, can't they make it over the pass this morning? So.
Barbara, thanks very much. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Greg, do you want to say anything regarding this thing or your handout up here?
No, this is just the,
Yeah, you have to speak into the mic, please.
I love this.
Greg Zerbel, Truckee Donner Historical Society, and we created this 24-stop historical tour of the Truckee Donner Summit site, and mostly all around the railroad. So you go to each site, you read a whole poster full of more information and photos. There's a stamp available, you stamp it. In the end, we have a whole calendar of events where we've held a talk or walk every weekend of the summer. And it's been a great little thing, and it'll continue into the future with all the schools and everything, just really loving it.
And Greg, if someone wants a copy of this passport, where should they get it?
Yes, you can get it at the Truckee Welcome Center, the California Welcome Center in the train depot, the California or Donner Memorial State Park, and those are the 2 main locations.
Thanks very much.
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And with that, I will read the resolution into the record. And apologies, it's a long one, and rather dry, but it's an important one.
Okay.
Resolution designating the Lake Tahoe Railway and Transportation Company, Truckee Railroad Station located at 10065 Donner Pass Road, Truckee, as Nevada County Historical District Landmark, NEV 19-03. Whereas the Nevada County Historical Landmarks Commission was established in 1969 to promote the general welfare of Nevada County and its citizens through official recognition, recording, marking, preserving, and promoting the historical resources of Nevada County. And whereas the Historical Landmarks Commission has since sustained an active program of cataloging and recommending for designation historical sites and structures throughout Nevada County. And whereas the Historical Landmarks Commission accepts, processes, and verifies applications for proposed historical landmark designation and recommends said landmark designations for approval by the Nevada County Board of Supervisors. And whereas the Board of Supervisors supports the promotion of the public health, safety, and general welfare by providing for the identification, protection, enhancement, perpetuation, and use of improvements, buildings, structures, signs, objects, features, sites, places, districts, and areas within the county that reflect special elements of the county's architectural, artistic, cultural, engineering, aesthetic, historical, political, social, and other heritage by allowing their registration as Nevada County Historical Landmarks for the following reasons. 1. Safeguarding the Nevada County's heritage as embodied and reflected in the Lake Tahoe Railway and Transportation Company, representing its influence on Nevada County's cultural and social history. And 2. Encouraging public knowledge, understanding, and appreciation of Nevada County's history as reflected in its heritage. And 3, fostering civic and neighborhood pride and a sense of identity based upon the recognition and use of cultural resources. And 4, preserving diverse and harmonious architectural styles and design innovations, and 5, enhancing property values to increase economic and financial benefits to Nevada County and its inhabitants by preserving and promoting historical buildings and historical sites, and 6, protecting and enhancing Nevada County's attraction to visitors and tourists, thereby stimulating business and industry, and 7, identifying as early as possible and resolving conflicts between the preservation of cultural resources and alternative land uses in a section of Nevada County that may see future population growth. That will see future population growth, by the way. Whereas on June 11th, 2019, the Nevada County Historical Landmarks Commission received an application from the owner of the property, Town of Truckee, located at 10065 Donner Pass Road, Truckee, California, requesting the Lake Tahoe Railway and Transportation Company Truckee Railroad Station located on the property be designated as a Nevada County Historical Landmark. And whereas at its June 21st, 2019 meeting, the Nevada County Historical Landmarks Commission verified and unanimously approved the application and now recommends that the Board of Supervisors designate the property as a Nevada County Historical Landmark. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Nevada hereby accepts the Nevada County Historical Landmarks Commission's recommendation and designates the Lake Tahoe Railway and Transportation Company Truckee Railroad Station located at 10065 Donner Pass Road, Truckee, California as Nevada County Historical Landmark NEV 19-03. Be it further resolved that the clerk of the board is hereby directed to record and a certified copy of this resolution with the Office of the Nevada County Clerk Recorder within 10 days after the adoption thereof. So we have an action on the table here, which is to adopt the attached resolution. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Madam Clerk?
District 2?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes. And let's do a quick photo op with members of the Historical Landmarks Commission and also the local Historical Society. And I thought I had a copy of the resolution up here.
It was too.
Oh, well, it was here.
I don't know where it is now. I gave it to him.
There we go.
Do you know how?
Sent another son.
Can I add a PS to this story? It was through the skills of our chairman, Bernie Zimmerman, that Union Pacific paid for this plaque. So their name will be on the plaque.
Well, please give our thanks to Judge Zimmerman when you see him next. And our next agenda item is acceptance of the Donner Summit Association's presentation regarding economic development activities at the Soda Springs area. So, Mr. Thorsby, would you please introduce the item for the board?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chair Anderson, honorable members of the board. Today, before you, we have a presentation by the Donner Summit Association. Before I turn it over to them, I just want to articulate, back in October of 2016, your board adopted the Soda Springs Area Plan, which outlined a number of identified economic development opportunities identified by the community. And over the last course of the last 2.5 and a half, 3 years, the Donner Summit Association has really taken the opportunity to try to really use that plan to further promote economic development opportunities up on the summit. Additionally, they have worked and partnered closely with Placer County, and last year our county provided and partnered with Placer County to do a small feasibility study on a visitor center up in Soda Springs. Later in the year, we'll be providing a presentation at your workshop on those activities. But today, the Donner Summit Association will be providing a presentation to your board, really apprising you of the various economic development efforts that are going on at the summit to help apprise you. And with that, I want to turn it over to the vice chair of the Donner Summit, the president of the Donner Summit Association, Pat Malberg, as well as Bill Odengest. And then additionally, I do have folks from Placer County, Aaron Casey here for comment as well. And so with that, I'll turn it over to you, and here's the presentation.
I am just a figurehead. And so
Good figure.
I'm going to turn it over to Bill Odegist, who's the real talent.
She's the talent here. Good morning, Board of Supervisors, members of the public. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. Donner Summit, inexpressively comprehensive, grand, and picturesque. Edward Bryant said that in 1846 after surmounting the pass, and he looked out over the landscape there. The air has a fresh crispness about it that gives new life to the visitor, whether he comes from the fertile plains or the foggy city. And no wonder. There are 7,000 feet between you and sea level, 7,000 feet nearer heaven, and so much nearer purity. It is a relief to look up onto the stars, nowhere brighter than here, with only the dark pines closing in the distance, the air redolent with the perfume of fresh grass and wildflowers, and aromatic with pine needles. It is a physical pleasure to breathe, a delight to exist. It is a small wonder that a millionaire should confess to be happier and healthier here than in the handsomest house in California Street, Nob Hill. To the Sierras, indeed. California Spirit of the Times magazine, June 1885. We have marvelous scenery as just one of the standout features of Donner Summit. Look at this scenery.
Incredible.
But those are all the large-size things. We also have small-size scenery. This is on top of Boreal Ridge. It's called Crater Lake. This is called Catfish Pond up on Donner Summit. We have 500 species of plants on Donner Summit. We've got 100 species of birds on Donner Summit, dozens of species of mammals and amphibians, 115 species of butterflies. We're incredibly rich. We also have world-class recreation opportunities, these being just 3. But what really sets Donner Summit apart is the history. It is the most historically significant area in California, historically speaking, and maybe in the entire western United States. Native Americans crossed for thousands of years, leaving petroglyph grinding rocks, the remains of knapping their projectile points, in dozens of places on the summit. The first wagon train to California came over Donner Summit. The first transcontinental railroad came over Donner Summit. This is China Wall up there, built by the Chinese railroad workers with the insides of the 15 tunnels. The first transcontinental highway went over Donner Summit. The first transcontinental air route went over Donner Summit. The first transcontinental telephone line went over Donner Summit. And about all of those, there are lots of pictures. Lots of stories, including the one about Tunnel 6, maybe the most interesting, historically unknown spot in California. It was so popular in the old days. Look at what it was like in the 1930s. Now, nobody's talking about replacing that, but in 1949, there were 10 lodges, 5 gas stations, 8 taverns and restaurants, 4 grocery stores, 4 post offices, 12 sport shops, and then this is Donner Summit today. Donner Summit has been on a downhill slide for decades, ever since the coming of the freeway. And that's something that we've been working to correct. Another problem is this. This is the Donner Summit area, and you look right through the middle there, almost completely bisecting it in half, is the line between Placer County and Nevada County. And for years, we've been kind of the stepchild of both counties because we're at the far reaches of the counties. But lately, in the last couple of years, both counties have been working together and working with us, and that we appreciate that so greatly. But we've not given up on the rest of it either. We have our 20-mile museum, which is 50 historical interpretive signs, mostly along Highway 40. We've got lots of brochures that talk about Donner Summit and the wonders that are there, so you could come up and read about what you want to do and then go out and do it. We had an economic development plan produced by Nevada County in 2004. We developed the Donner Summit Business Group some years ago to try and revitalize the economy up there. We've surveyed a number of times the visitors and the residents on Donner Summit. We have held a number of public meetings, including a summit. This is in the picture there is the lady who was just standing here a minute ago, the president of our DSA right now. And out of those, we came up with economic and environmental vision for Donner Summit. Here is one of the public meetings we had. That's Steve Frisch, who is CEO of the Sierra Business Council. And people were putting together what it is on Donner Summit they like, where they would like to go with Donner Summit, what changes ought to be, how we could revitalize the economy, and so forth. One of the things that came out of all of that is the Soda Springs area plan that Mr. Thorsby talked about. And one of the parts of the area plan was a change in zoning that made some current businesses legal and opened up opportunities for other businesses having a zoning or changing the zoning so that it would allow that. So we developed the area plan with public meetings. The plan calls for establishing a powerful gateway or monument, something we have been doing and worked on, and we'll see that in a minute. Visitor serving facilities, including a visitor center for information and public restrooms. We have no public restrooms on Donner Summit. Optimize the use of public lands for public use and recreation, we've been working on. Provide opportunities to expand public day use, we've been working on. Provide highly visible, recognizable, and safe trailheads and access points, we've been working on. Encourage trails that provide educational and interpretive opportunities, we've also been working on. And that's come about through the Donner Summit Association, which is a combination of a couple of organizations that we had prior to that. For the benefit of its residents, businesses, and visitors alike, the DSA will promote and strengthen Donner Summit, protect its heritage, steward its future, and provide a voice for the entire community through its leadership as an advocate for economic investment in appropriate infrastructure and long-range planning, a liaison with government entities, a coordinator and promoter of local events and projects. And through that, we've applied for grants over the last couple of years. First grant came in 2016, which was for planning a monument, a welcome spot as you get off the freeway at Donner Summit. We have an architect working on a sign right now. In 2017, we applied and received a grant to do the actual construction, which we did last year. Our next grant was in 2018 for a phase 1 of a visitor center study to see whether a visitor center would be a good idea. This year we won a grant from Placer County for phase 2 to look at the design of what we would want to do to a building, to rehab it, and apply for permits from Nevada County. So phase 1 feasibility study is the visitor center would orient visitors, provide information, serve as an educational center, have public restrooms. And the questions posed were, is it feasible? Will it bring more visitors? Will visitors stay longer? What shape should a visitor center take? Should we construct something new or rehabilitate something? How much would it cost? And where should it be placed? And the feasibility study done by the Sierra Business Council said that a visitor center on Donner Summit would help address a gap in visitor services in the area and elevate marketing or branding campaign focusing on promoting Donner Summit's year-round tourist attractions. A visitor center would also offer additional benefits to residences and businesses through blight remediation and serving as a meeting space for current people. So we also, in 2018, applied for a grant from Placer County to create a trail and history hub, because currently people arrive on Donner Summit, they have no idea what to do or where to go to do what they want to do. And so here is the very top of the pass. On the left-hand side are 2 large buildings owned by Sugar Bowl. On the right-hand side is a dilapidated, decrepit old building that we got a grant to renovate and pave in front of and put an ADA pathway to a spot behind it. And the idea is to create a trail and history hub, a trailhead of trailheads that would improve visitors' experience, information center, provide marked trailheads, so we'd put signs out on the trails too, accessible trail, public gathering spot with benches, restrooms. Did I mention we don't have any public ones on Donner Summit? Parking. And it matches our Soda Springs area plan, which Nevada County crafted, to revitalize the physical appearance of the area, capitalize on our natural resources, develop visitors' facilities, restrooms, trails, increase public awareness and local history, provide a gathering space, provide signage and access, identify areas of wildlife and nature appreciation. We also applied this year and got a grant for developing a comprehensive public use and recreation master plan for Donner Summit. And the idea there is to develop the trails on Donner Summit, which ones are the ones we need to use, because there are a lot of ad hoc ones there, and which ones ought to be removed. Put in signage, where the location and trailheads ought to be, where the public restrooms and parking ought to be, how to deal with increased numbers of snowplay visitors. With proper infrastructure and organization, the visitors' experience on Donner Summit will be enhanced. Rewarding visits will result from an increase in the number of visitors. In turn, the local economy will improve because entrepreneurs will be encouraged to invest in Donner Summit. In the end, visitors, businesses, and residents will all benefit. And that master plan is under construction right now. So going back a step to the visitor center, here's some of our beautiful scenery again. The visitor center will be a destination for visitors, help them extend their stay. It'll be a sheltered meeting place, an interpretive center, trailhead information, destination place that'll benefit both Nevada and Placer County. It's advocated in Nevada County's Soda Springs area plan. And so we're looking at renovating. First, we're looking at this building, but lately this one is going to be coming on the market, and that's what we would like to be focusing on now. We must say that we really appreciate the opportunity to be able to work first with Mr. Thorsby. He's a marvelous guy. You guys are lucky to have him, and we're lucky to be able to work with him. But also that we're able to work with both Placer and Nevada counties on all of these things. Here we've got Placer County grants that we're putting in place on Nevada County rights of way in some places. We've got Nevada County's area plan that is benefiting both Placer County and Nevada County. We've got both counties working together here on our visitor center, and we really appreciate it. We see that we're going to be able to turn Donner Summit around eventually, and it's going to be a real tourist draw, a real economic driver in this area, guiding people down to the Truckee area so that they can enjoy things down there too. And as a memento of our little visit today, we have a brochure that we worked on. On one side has got the wonders of Donner Summit, photographically speaking, and on the other side is kind of a review of all of these grants that we've got and what it is that we're working on. And then we can turn to our president and she can answer the question.
For folks who are watching this on television, Mr. Udikis has just handed out a wonderfully designed brochure regarding Donner Summit initiatives. So thank you, Bill. And Pat, would you care to come up? And Bill, by the way, thanks very much for a concise and extremely educational presentation.
Yeah, I was told I only had 10 minutes, so I had to go fast.
He's got that down.
Thanks, Pat.
Are there any questions for Bill or me?
Well, do you have any additional words to say, or?
Oh, well, this is the result of many, many years of work, obviously, and it started out very slowly in right as a result, actually, of the economic study plan that you did in 2004, and got the community together that said, hey, wait a minute, they're telling us to do stuff that we don't agree to, and so both Placer and Nevada County residents came together, and it's been a long row because we kept saying over the years, Nevada and Placer County needs to, maybe we need a county of our own. I mean, it was just that's how we felt sort of excluded. And now you can see the result of all of this thanks to Richard has been wonderful, but thanks to the Board of Supervisors on both sides. So we're really, really appreciative of that.
And we have a
Jeffrey.
meeting with Placer County and Nevada County shows up, and we have a meeting with Nevada County and Placer County shows up. It's really gratifying.
It's incredible. So I think Aaron might want to say something to you.
Hey, Pat, I got a question for you. Your vision of the Donner Summit area, are you looking at that as a jumping off spot for, for fishermen, for hikers, for rock climbers, but where they could actually stay on the summit rather than go someplace else?
It'd be great if they could stay on the summit.
Because you can see the old history of the summit up there, but
there are a few places where they can, but that's one of the things that we're lacking is overnight stays. But the other side of that is that we're very close to the Bay Area, when, relatively speaking, now that there's a freeway that gets to us. It used to take, when I was a kid, 7.5 hours to come from San Francisco up to the summit. And now in 2.5 hours, people can maybe 3, depending on how fast they're going. And the crowd of on Highway 80, I mean, they're going to have to do something with Highway 80, make it bigger, because it just can't handle the kind of traffic that we have. But anyway, it's a lot more accessible than it used to be. So if kids have some kind of sporting meet on a Saturday, they can come up for a Sunday and they can go back home again. And you do see that the traffic on Sunday nights, even during the wintertime, is just crazy on I-80. So.
Pat, both you and Bill had mentioned the impediment that having the county line running through Soda Springs area creates, and it's my hat is off to both Nevada County staff and Placer County staff for working across, for both sides working across that boundary. And I think we have a Placer County staff person here, so why don't you introduce her?
All right. So Erin Casey has been our wonderful liaison with Placer County and has worked really closely also with Jeffrey to make this whole thing happen. And she's also responsible for our getting, not totally responsible, but a pusher for our getting many of those grants that we talked about. So Erin Casey.
Hi, good morning. My name is Erin Casey. I work for the Placer County Executive Office, and I'm really pleased to be here. As you can tell, this is definitely a labor of love for members of the Donner Summit community. I feel really quite privileged, actually, to be able to work with all of you and also to work with Nevada County staff. Jeff has been a fantastic partner for us. Have attended several meetings with Jeff on the summit. He's come to our committee meetings. The Capital Projects Advisory Committee is the group that recommends expenditures of transient occupancy tax funds to our board, and that is the funding source for a lot of the programs and grants that are outlined in the brochure that you have in front of you. Jeff has come to some of those meetings as well to communicate the partnership between Nevada County and Placer County. So it's really been quite a privilege for me personally and very fulfilling to have the opportunity to work with your staff, now a bit your board, as well as residents of the Donner Summit Association. We are committed to supporting the Soda Springs Area Plan as well as the Placer County Tourism Master Plan, which really is focused on supporting the tourism economy in eastern Placer County specifically, which is inclusive of Donner Summit. We believe that this supports our economy, supports the community, and we continue to invest millions of dollars in transient occupancy tax dollars to this end, and we will continue to do that. The CAP committee, or the Capital Projects Advisory Committee, is very excited about the projects happening on Donner Summit, very supportive, as you may know, or as you can tell, and also look forward to further supporting some of these efforts that the Donner Summit Association has championed for our community on Summit. So with that, I would just like to say thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you for the opportunity to work with Jeff, and we look forward to an ongoing partnership with you.
And Aaron, so are we. So thanks very much for coming up over to Truckee and saying those few words.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments for DSA, for Jeffrey, for Aaron, Ed?
I'd be curious, do you have the support of the resorts up there?
On our board, in fact, all the resorts are represented, except for Donner Ski Ranch, but they're very, very supportive. Okay. They just don't have the time to sit on our board. But yeah, the Sugar Bowl has been incredible, and Soda Springs, we have one of our members is the director of Soda Springs area, the resort too.
Great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We couldn't do it without him.
Heidi?
This is very exciting. I just look forward to seeing it happen. Thanks, and it's amazing what collaboration can do. So thank you for everyone working together.
Thank you.
Sue? Nope, nothing. I will echo Heidi's comment about collaboration. It's been occurring over a number of years now between Nevada County and DSA, and now more critically between Nevada County and Placer County. And I think it speaks well to the boards of both counties, as well as to the residents and second homeowners and business owners up on Donner Summit, that they want to make something happen, and they're being proactive about their community, about their future, and it's something which I would hope that other communities in Nevada County will look at and learn from. So we have an action before us, which is actually, before we go do that, any public comment on this? See no public comment, we'll close public comment and we'll move into the action, which is to accept the presentation by the Donner Summit Association. It'll be a voice vote. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not opposed. So Pat and Mr. Bill, thanks for coming up over here, and excellent presentation. And Aaron, thanks for coming over here also. And we'll look forward to Jeffrey interacting with you in the future. So great presentations. Our next item is item 41, which is another presentation. This is by the Nevada County Public Health Department, their 2019 annual report and presentation to the board. We have Joe Blake and Dr. Cutler, our public health officer, to present to us.
I'm not sure. Do I do something else, Jeff? Do you? Sorry, one moment. No, thank you. Good morning, Chair. Oh, is this on? Done on? Good morning, Chair Anderson and members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Jill Blake. I'm your Public Health Director, and with me is...
Good morning, Supervisors, Chair Anderson, Ken Cutler, Public Health Officer. Thanks.
So we are here to do a very brief presentation for you on our first ever annual report. Our department completed its first ever annual report to share with the community and the board on some of our accomplishments in the last year. I do want to preface this presentation by saying you have a copy of that report in your meeting contents, but we've had to make some changes to two of the appendices, just some revisions, so we'll release a slightly edited version, not the body of the work, but the appendices in about a week or two, and we'll do that through the Nevada County News, so you'll see when it's released to the public. So thanks for having us today. As I mentioned, maybe I do need the clicker, Jeff, sorry. Thank you. No problem, it's me. Do I just, okay. Nope. It's changing here, but it's not changing there. Sorry, technical difficulties.
Where's our IT department?
He's coming up.
He is.
I'll just enter it. Okay, great, thanks. All right, sorry about that. So today's presentation, as per the annual report, will give you a brief update on our accreditation work, which will include an update on our strategic plan implementation, our community health improvement plan implementation, and our brand new community health assessment. We'll also deliver a program highlight for you on our naloxone distribution program, and Dr. Cutler will close the presentation by talking to you about a few emerging issues that affect public health. So firstly, accreditation. As a reminder, accreditation at its core is a quality improvement process. The goal is to improve and protect the health of the public by improving the performance and quality of the health department. Now, for some of you, it may seem like we've been talking to you about accreditation for years. If it does seem that way, you are accurate. We have been talking to you about this for years. On average, it takes health departments about 5 years to become accredited. And really, though we talked about it for a few years and did some self-assessments, we really started the accreditation process in 2015, so we're right on target. So there are 3 foundational documents that are necessary for the accreditation process. The first is the strategic plan. So we adopted our first ever strategic plan in 2018. And this is intended to be an overlay, as the slide indicates, to existing plans. Many of our programs have their own individual strategic plans or work plans as required by funders. There is a Health and Human Services Agency strategic plan. Through the accreditation process, our department has developed and finalized a workforce development plan, a quality improvement plan, and other plans. So a strategic plan, we were trying to figure out what does that look like and how do we make that usable. So we really see this as an umbrella document, something that is usable and something that touches on all areas of our department. So it's very lean, not unlike our department, but again, very practical. We have 6 strategic priorities as listed on this slide. And while we have 3 highlights here, I just want to touch on the third one listed on this slide. So again, we are a lean department. Within our public health department, we have 33 FTE, and we have about 10 nurses within our department. If we have a communicable disease outbreak, if we are responding to an emergency event like a wildfire and we have to staff a shelter, if there are people within a shelter who have medical needs, we have a very limited ability to provide services to them on an ongoing basis. So we have been working to bolster enrollment in the Disaster Healthcare Database, which is a database that's maintained by the staff, and we got permission from, we've been authorized by the CEO's office to utilize so that we could develop a local database or a local pool of volunteers who could help respond in events like those. So we've had, I think we've tripled the number of volunteers who are registered in the disaster healthcare database. That includes healthcare professionals as well as mental health professionals. Moving on to our Community Health Improvement Plan. The Community Health Improvement Plan is based on our community health assessment results. We reach out to stakeholders as well as partners to identify significant health issues and also to help implement this plan. So the strategic plan, that belongs to the department. It's our responsibility to implement it. The Community Health Improvement Plan is just what it sounds like. That is a community plan, and we have community members who helped formulate that plan and who are helping to implement that plan. We began implementation in the spring of 2018, and I'll share some highlights with you. Again, there are 3 listed there. I'd like to focus on the first one listed. So Seth Kellerman, who is from the Emmanuel Episcopal Church in Grass Valley, he was a member of our steering committee that helped develop our Community Health Improvement Plan. He recruited Anna Acton from Freed, an organization in Western County, to co-chair a work group that focused on reducing social isolation and bolstering a volunteer visitation program. That work group conducted an assessment to identify, map, and share current assets. They surveyed community members on what social isolation and causes of loneliness were, and they worked with Connecting Point to make use of the new volunteer hub to connect those who are seeking a visitor and those who are seeking a volunteer, or to volunteer, and really trying to help bring those 2 together. There are a number of organizations that have visiting programs, and Connecting Point is, again, serving as a hub to assist all of those programs. One nice thing that has come out of that effort, there were people who contacted these organizations or Connecting Point looking for a visitor, and in the end, they became a volunteer. So you never know what's going to come out of these efforts. So the Community Health Assessment is, again, another foundational document of our accreditation process. Our first Community Health Assessment we conducted, we finalized on our own as a health department. That document was finalized in 2016, and on that slide are listed the 5 priority areas that were identified through that community health assessment. What's happened this year, actually it's been happening over the past 2 years. We've been working together for almost 2 years. Just to give you some background, as I mentioned, the CHA, or the Community Health Assessment, is a foundational document for the accreditation process. Nonprofit hospitals have to conduct a community health needs assessment every 3 years. We have to conduct a community health assessment every 5 years. After we've completed our community health assessment, we develop that community health improvement plan. After hospitals complete their community health needs assessment, they develop an implementation plan. So it's a very parallel process. So in 2019, we worked together with both Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital and Tahoe Forest Hospital to create one document that is being used by both Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital and the Nevada County Public Health Department with input from Tahoe Forest Hospital. So it's our first joint document. So we have one countywide assessment. We have one implementation plan that's being utilized by both our department and Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital. And in 3 years' time, when the hospitals have to do another assessment, the plan is for both hospitals and the health department to work together to complete those documents and to implement that plan collectively. I have shown this slide to the board a time or two before. We often refer to it as the jelly bean diagram. But what I want to emphasize is that as we're developing these plans, as we're implementing these plans and assessments, these are the partners that we have to reach out to. There's no significant health issue that exists in our community that can be resolved or addressed by one organization, by one department. It takes the entire local public health system to address the issues that are captured within our CHIP. And so these are the entities that we reach out to as we're developing them. They've all participated. You too can participate. Our draft 2019 CHA is located on our website, and it's still open for input. So if you want to take a look at it, it is there for your browsing.
Great. Yeah, so I'd like to provide you with the context for why we would want, as a public health department, to be involved in naloxone distribution in the community. So just as a reminder, we've had the opioid epidemic going on in the United States and California locally for 20 years now. And in general, it's gotten worse, not better. We're just starting to see some improvements more recently. A couple of years ago, the U.S. declared a public health emergency with the opioid epidemic as it started to take the lives of tens of thousands of Americans every year. About 70,000 Americans die from overdoses every year, and the majority of those are from opioids. So there's been a multi-pronged response to that. We want more judicious prescribing. We're trying to get more resources so people can be in treatment and recovery. We have prevention efforts, trying to get rid of supplies that are easily accessible by youth, but we also want to get naloxone, which is a rescue medicine for those who have experienced overdose, out in the community, because the rapid response is what saves lives. And naloxone is easy to administer, and it's safe and effective.
So as Dr. Cutler mentioned, basically the opioid epidemic was declared a public health emergency, and naloxone distribution was identified as a priority for the public health sector to engage in. So the last time we presented to you on this, it was actually here in Truckee in 2017. The California Department of Public Health had made available to local health departments Narcan, which is a brand name for naloxone. You authorized us to accept that product and to begin a naloxone distribution program. Since that time, our department has been awarded over 280 doses of Narcan, and we have distributed that Narcan as per the California Department of Public Health guidelines to those who fit within their definition of a distribution system. So to date, we've distributed 20 doses to first responders, including Grass Valley Fire Department and Washington Fire and Rescue. We've also distributed 80 doses via the HIV and hepatitis C testing clinics that we host at our health department. When we distribute naloxone there, we are distributing both to those who are at risk of overdose, but also family, friends, and loved ones of those who might be at risk of overdose, or just somebody who believes they might witness an overdose. So we're getting naloxone out into the community. We also entered into a novel partnership with the public defender to distribute Narcan. I believe some of Carrie Klein's staff was at a conference with some of the public health staff, and they were sitting near one another, and they had this brilliant idea that they could also engage in Narcan distribution. And with some training from Dr. Cutler and some product from us, they have been distributing for, I think, over a year now. It's been quite a successful partnership. In addition, we're working currently with Behavioral Health Department and the Sheriff's Department to expand naloxone distribution, again, to those who are at the highest risk of either experiencing or witnessing an overdose. And lastly, we've been conducting outreach to local organizations to try to get them to start distributing naloxone as well. While I believe it's fantastic that we're distributing it via our clinics, those are very limited windows of availability. So we're trying to get organizations who are currently working with populations who, again, might be in need of this opioid overdose reversal drug, and they can, members of the public can access that where they're places where they're already convening, places that they're already frequenting. So, for example, we worked with the North San Juan Community Center, and after they receive some training from one of our public health nurses, they'll start distributing Narcan. And we're also currently working with Hospitality House to help them work through the process so they can also distribute Narcan.
And then we wanted to turn to some emerging issues that we hope to address. But one is climate change. In 2017, California Department of Public Health put out a profile of counties and effects that they might anticipate with climate change. And when I talk about climate, we're really talking about prevailing weather patterns over long periods of time, not the day-to-day or week-to-week variation that we see in our weather. And if you look at those long-term changes, we're seeing increased temperatures, not only daytime temperatures, but nighttime temperatures that people need cooler temperatures at night to really recover from the daytime highs. We're starting to see changes in precipitation patterns. So we're seeing more drought experiences with intermittent large atmospheric rivers that can increase the potential for flooding. We're seeing decreases in our snowpack, more volatile events. And a big illustration is our risk of wildfire. California has been really experiencing more intense, larger wildfires that have caused evacuation, destruction of life, destruction of property, displacement, and also air quality changes. It used to be where in a wildfire season, maybe 10 to 20% of Californians would experience harmful levels of particulate matter from wildfire smoke. Last year, it was the majority of Californians who did that. And so we're anticipating that there would be more heat-related illnesses seen in emergency rooms and places, that increased asthma and respiratory diseases, changes in vectors as mosquito populations change and move, and increased problems with food security as climate change progresses. And then immunizations and communicable diseases are not a new issue for you all, but one of the reasons why we look at it as an emerging issue is changing patterns in immunizations. And so, as you know, our kindergarten up-to-date rate for school-mandated vaccines has been one of the lowest in California for years. It has markedly improved. We used to be in the high 60%, almost 70%. Now we're over 80%. Much of that has been with changes in policy and laws related to school vaccination, where personal belief exemptions were done away with. But what's emerging is we're seeing more permanent medical exemptions for students. And so in Nevada County, 10% of our kindergartners in the last school year had a medical exemption for vaccinations. And what we know is that level of exemptions puts us at risk for vaccine preventable diseases and outbreaks.
And those are the highlights from our annual report.
Jill, thanks very much. Before we go into questions and comments from the board, Dr. Curler, if you could simply explain what are permanent medical exemptions. I've never heard the term before, and I'm curious.
Yeah, so when SB 277 came, California was a personal belief exemption state where somebody could just say it was against my beliefs and my child won't be vaccinated. When that was done away with, it did leave in place that some people will have medical conditions for which they should not be immunized. And so it was left to physician discretion if they granted a medical exemption to a student. Prior to SB 277, we ran well under 1% of our students having a medical exemption. And then after personal belief exemptions went away, we saw a fairly rapid increase in those medical exemptions to, as I said, 10%. If you look at statewide, we're well above the state, which is still right around 1%.
Dr. Cutler, do you want to make a distinction between Eastern and Western County?
Yes, thanks. And particularly for Chair Anderson, when I talk about those lower levels, that's really the Western County schools. Our Eastern County schools have higher immunization rates, and they get lumped in with Placer because of the Placer Unified School District.
Thanks for the clarification. It's much appreciated. And thank you, by the way, for the presentations. And Jill, thank you for your first annual presentation of an annual report. Quite well done. Any questions for staff? Dan?
What would be a medical exemption? What qualifies?
Right, so that is potentially changing, but right now all that one needs is that it's a licensed California physician signing that they believe that the child's condition does not warrant an immunization.
What condition would that be?
So right now they have broad latitude. They can take into account family history of adverse reaction, things like that. If you look at what Centers for Disease Control and Prevention would say are reasons for kids not to get shots, not to be immunized, it tends to be quite small. So a severe reaction in the past. If you're severely immunosuppressed, you shouldn't have a live virus vaccine like the chickenpox vaccine or the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine.
So it's not a specific condition. It's not like a chronic condition, like a diabetes or something similar.
Right. Most chronic conditions are not considered a reason not to be immunized. Some physicians will have a more expansive view of what warrants a medical exemption. So Dr. Pan, who authored 277, has a bill called AB 276 that would ask for a review process to be put in place at the state level for those medical exemptions.
Okay. Well, congratulations, Richard, in Eastern County. Way to step it up. The next question I have is on the disaster portion of the volunteering. You seem to rely top heavy on volunteers. How do you do the training?
I don't know that I would say we're top heavy with volunteers. That's new for us. But we involve them in some of our tabletop exercises and some of the drills that we have throughout the year. We'll engage them when we have our drive-through clinics, both in Eastern and Western County, so that they get familiar with us, we get familiar with them and their processes, and then we can use them in a smart and efficient way.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Artie?
Thank you for this report. This is always so interesting to find out what's going on in the county health-wise and how we're addressing it. And I just want to say how pleased I am that we are, appears to me, focusing on the issues that really are key to our county. So the outreach for isolated seniors, that's an issue I know we've been doing more on. That's great. Focus on our vulnerable populations, young children, and upping our game when it comes to mental health, which I know we've been doing. The focus on opioids, I'm really glad that you've gotten the Narcan out there distributed. That's very makes me feel better about the world and our community. Your focus on wildfire and starting to look at climate change effects, and then finally the immunization issue. These are all really important issues for our county, and I'm really glad to know that you're on top of them. And I hope that, if this bill passes, if Dr. Pan's bill passes, that we will be engaging, or even before then, be engaging our medical community a little bit more, and make sure that we aren't abusing those medical exemptions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hardy. Ed?
Well, I agree. This is always a educational presentation that you give to us. Just a couple specific questions. On the Narcan distribution to nonprofits, is there a charge? Or a
No,
fee?
just to be clear, we haven't distributed Narcan to the local organizations. They're getting it from the state free of charge
Oh, they
through
are.
the Department of Healthcare Services.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
We've
we're-
gotten ours free of charge as well.
Pardon me?
We've gotten ours free of charge as well, so when we do distribute it, it is free.
Okay. So it's fairly readily available?
It is available. We're trying to make it more readily available. Yeah, I would say we're in the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other question I had was kind of a general thing. The climate change and what kind of programs are you looking at as far as strategy is concerned? Is it more educational? The one I look at is kind of like heat-related, heat stroke, that type of thing.
Yeah, so our even though climate change is an emerging public health issue, it's not going to be clearly a small public health department that's going to change the root causes of it. But we can serve several functions, and one is education, that it's real, it's affecting populations already. The models are that it may be worsening, and there are things we can be doing to decrease its impact, working on active transportation, nutritional policies, and other things, water policies, water safety policies that we can be doing. Another role for public health departments is really tracking those impacts, working with our healthcare providers to see what they're hearing and seeing in their offices and in the emergency rooms and in the hospital with heat-related illnesses, asthma. We know down in the Central Valley they're seeing more valley fever as the soil's dry and there's more dust, and people are getting more exposed to valley fever organisms. And then another role we have is convening and bringing people together to talk about policy changes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Sue?
Well, very interesting. All of it's very interesting. I'm just curious. So we're getting ready. You guys are going to do a clinic, I think, right now for school immunizations.
It's happening today.
Happening
Yes.
Today, I think,
Yeah.
is it? So it'll be interesting to see what kind of how many people actually come and utilize that. So I'll be interested because, am I not correct too that we're still real high risk for measles in Nevada County?
We are indeed. I'll let Dr. Cutler address that.
Right. So we would hope to have an immunization rate, let's say, of our kindergarten students of 95% or higher. And as I said, we're right around the 80% mark. So while it's an improvement, we're well below what we would feel really gives protection to those who can't be immunized or are more vulnerable to measles infections. So until that changes, yes, we haven't had measles introduced into our county this year that we're aware of, but if it happens, we have the conditions where it could spread very rapidly and widely.
Interesting. The other thing too, so are the schools very proactive as far as if you haven't had your shots, they're not letting you come to school?
Yeah, over time, I think they've gotten more active about making sure that they're checking that people have met their requirements before they're allowed in school.
So who would take an active role in that when your children don't come to school? That becomes a problem too, when you don't have your kids in school. So is that, do they homeschool them, or how do you guys how do you monitor that?
Right. So parents, the schools are really the entity that's responsible for determining if the child has met criteria for it. They'll sometimes ask us to look at a medical exemption. Does it meet criteria? Was it a licensed physician? Did they specifically say which immunization? There are certain elements that we can help them look at. But the ultimate decision making, whether the child enters school or not, based on it, is left with the schools. And parents do have alternatives. They can, if they choose not to immunize and they don't have a medical exemption, there are independent study programs that are available that are exempt from the immunization requirements, and there are homeschool-based programs as well.
And then one other question, all of the Narcan, you see you've had 208, have you used all those doses?
No, we haven't yet, and some of them are about to expire. We have gotten additional product since then, so we just keep making the effort to get it out. And having 0 product on our shelf would be our goal, but we're not there yet.
Thank you. Good report.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. The essence of good government is delivering services, and to deliver services well requires measuring performance and requires a evaluation of outcomes, particularly with regard to meeting constituent needs. And in fact, my understanding is that the accreditation process you're going through is intended to help us do exactly that in public health. I noticed in your report that we have something, an acronym called QUILT. Quality Improvement Leadership Team, is that correct?
I think it's Learning Team.
Learning Team, yeah. And apparently there's been QUILT training that has included not just staff from your department, but also staff from other county departments. Can you describe briefly what that is?
Well,
and its importance for our organization?
Sure. So as you mentioned, at the core of this accreditation process is quality improvement, and that is how we work to then improve the health of the community. So we developed what we refer to very fondly as our QUILT team, Quality Improvement Learning Team. It is made up of, I believe, 5 members of our staff. They take on projects utilizing a defined quality improvement process, and they take on projects within our department that they've taken on 6 projects formally, and all 6 have resulted in efficiencies and cost savings for our department, as well as improved customer experience. So for example, if we have a back-to-school immunization clinic, we might utilize the quality improvement process within that clinic to make sure that clients are moving through as quickly as possible, that there aren't any hang-ups, that we're getting their feedback on their experience, and that we're utilizing that feedback to continue to improve their experience. So in order to get our department sort of on that quality improvement page, we're working to develop a quality improvement culture within our department. And we've introduced training, lean training, into our department, and we expanded that beyond our department and invited other departments within our agency and outside our agency to participate as well, hoping to build that quality improvement culture beyond our little department.
Sounds exciting. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
With that, any public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll close public comment.
Thank you.
Any final comments, questions from the board? If not, the action on our agenda is to, pardon me while I...
Accept the county health report.
Yes, I just about to say that.
Helping you out.
So and this will be a voice vote. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have a scheduled item at 11 a.m. We have a few minutes. And at this point, I know that Steve wants to introduce our new librarian, our new Truckee librarian. Yeah, aside from IT, Steve is also in charge of the libraries, which is a form of IT, but I guess old school IT.
Good morning, Chairman Anderson, honorable board members, Steve Monahan, your Chief Information Officer. I'm very excited to introduce Bobby Lester to you this morning. Bobby is our new Truckee branch librarian and manager for the Truckee community. Bobby moved to the community recently this summer from North Carolina. We're really excited. She's very qualified. She was worked in a K-12 or K through 12 school district as the library media specialist and chaired the technology committee. Before that, she was a VP in the private sector in a consulting services firm. working on corporate library technology and intelligence platforms, which is really interesting. And she has her Master's of Library Science from Simmons College. With that, I'll introduce Bobby. Oh, yeah, I didn't see that wood thing.
Thank you, Steve, for that introduction, and thank you to the Board of Supervisors and Chairman Anderson for having me this morning. I just wanted to introduce myself and just say that we are working hard at the Truckee branch as well as Nevada County to do outreach in the community and bring other programming to the community as well. As I'm sitting here, this is a great introduction to what the county is doing. And as I'm sitting here, I've been able to draw so many parallels to just what's been happening in the past 2 weeks that I've been at the branch. In the past couple of days, yesterday, in fact, a patron came in and asked, what can I do on Donner Summit? I'm really interested in kind of finding that trail. So I see that connection here. I met an individual who was with the Railroad Association last night at the Tahoe Silicon Mountain meeting. And regarding the public health initiative, we had some families, some Spanish speakers come in the past couple of days seeking literacy services, and that's a great opportunity for us to connect and talk about immunizations and things that they can be doing, talk about the clinics. So I'm excited to do more outreach in the community, both children's and adult programming, and see how the library, not just Truckee, but the County of Nevada as well, how we can continue to serve as a vehicle and a place where we can put people in connection with others in the community. Just as one highlight that I can talk about from the library over the summer in particular, we had a summer learning program, and we roughly doubled the participants that we had from this year as compared to last year. So we had roughly 1,000 participants, adult and children, participate in that summer learning program, and that was just in Truckee alone. So thank you.
Bobby, welcome. You're a wonderful addition to the county and to our community. I'm impressed that you've already dived in with regard to visits to Truckee or Tahoe Silicon Mountain, and that you've been very engaged in addressing the questions of patrons of the library. So, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And with that, we have 5 minutes until the next timed item. I think that's probably too short of a period to do announcements from the board. So let's take a 5-minute recess.
left at 10 after 8. So took that solid. Yep, no, I was appreciative because, hey, we got to go. Yeah. Where exactly was this?
So let's reopen this meeting of the Nevada County Board of Supervisors. It's now 11:03, I believe. We have a scheduled item for 11 o'clock, which is a public hearing to consider adoption of the Hurstdale Road Bridges Project Initial Study Mitigated Negative Declaration. And I will introduce our Director of Public Works, Trish Tillotson, to bring us into this agenda item.
Good morning. Tricia Tillotson, your Director of Public Works for Nevada County. I wanted to introduce our team, and they'll be leading you through the presentation. We have Pat Perkins, our Principal Civil Engineer, sitting right to my right, and to his right, Jessica Hankins, our Public Works Project Manager. So with that, I'll hand it over.
Great. Thank you, Tricia. And I wanted to mention also that we do have our engineering and environmental consultant here as well, Dock and Engineering, named Matt Hosinian, sitting in front of me. So what we're here to talk about today is the CEQA final initial study and mitigated negative declaration for the Hurstdale Road Bridges project. This project is in eastern Nevada County on Hurstdale Road. There are two bridges that we'll be talking about today. One is the Hurstdale Road Bridge over the Truckee River, and the second is just east of that over the Union Pacific Railroad tracks. Some of you may remember this project has actually been in the works for quite a long time now. It was first identified in 2004 when both of these bridges were identified as structurally deficient by Caltrans, and the original plan was to replace both of the bridges. That plan ended up being changed to a bridge removal project over the course of the next 5, 6, 7 years following the 2004 identification of the replacement project, when the Tahoe Pyramid bike route was originally identified on a different route, and we had several public meetings where the public actually expressed an interest in removing those bridges and removing traffic from that road. So we proceeded with an initial study on the bridge removal project in 2014. In the interim, the Tahoe Pyramid Bikeway was actually realigned through Hurstdale Road. So we then received many public comments, 78 public comments, concerning the access loss on this road and the access loss to the Pyramid Bikeway, as well as many other issues. So at that time, the board adopted a no project alternative, and the project was removed from the capital improvement plan. We went back to Caltrans. Caltrans wouldn't accept a project cancellation. We had structurally deficient bridges and needed to do something with them. So we have come up now with our new proposal, which we've got preliminary plans for, is a replacement of the Truckee River Bridge and a rehabilitation of the Union Pacific Railroad Bridge. So I'm going to turn this over to Pat now to talk a little bit about, give us an overview on the project design and construction.
Thank you, Jessica. One thing I wanted to just kind of go over is there's a couple different slides that'll be upcoming. We're going to be talking about the project design, some technical aspects, but really what we're here today to do is to work on environmental documents. So the data that I'm going to go over really has to do with the design. The project has really come full circle from a tear down, get rid of them. Now we're back really to where we started in the beginning at this point. So what we're going to be doing, or what we're proposing to do, is to replace the bridge that's going over the Truckee River, and we're going to be rehabilitating the bridge that goes over the railroad tracks, or the Hinton Bridge. Both bridges will be down to one lane with pedestrian access across both bridges, and that'll preserve both bicycle and pedestrian use. As I mentioned, the Truckee River Bridge is the one that we'll be replacing. The proposal now is for a 16-foot lane with 6-foot sidewalks.
We will be removing the one pier that's in the center of the river at this point and moving it closer to the shore to try to get a little bit more access for water to flow through, a little less imposing into the river. We've worked on some preliminary alignment right now with regard to the design, and we're really looking towards probably putting in a box girder type bridge, so it'll look something very similar to what's there now. So the overall character, if you will, of the area should remain roughly the same with regard to the Truckee River Bridge. The Hinton Bridge is a little bit different in that we are not going to be replacing it. What we're going to be doing is really filling in the two walls that you can kind of see, or the piers or supports on the sides of the railroad tracks. We are going to be modifying, replacing the deck at this point, so the overall structure stays the same. We're going to shrink down the sides of it, rebuild the surface, so it's really a rehabilitation of that existing bridge. With regard to construction, we are really pushing to get this thing built in the summer of 2020, or at least to start construction in the summer of 2021. That's what we would like to do. Depending on the weather, we anticipate this taking probably going to have to go over 2 seasons. If we can get an early start in May, push through into September, October, depending on when we start getting snow, and then it'll probably have to be finished up the next season. So we really see this as a 2-season project. During construction, we are going to do our best to keep this open for pedestrian access. There will be a temporary bridge that will be on the Truckee River Bridge. It's not really a bridge, but it's a pathway, if you will, that'll be just upstream of the construction. So folks should be able to get back and forth most of the time. There will be a couple of short time spans where we will have to shut down access, but we're going to do our best to minimize those. Those short time spans will be a couple of days, 3 to 4 days, but we'll try to have the bridge open for every weekend. It allows the pedestrians, bicyclists to get back and forth. We have had some discussions with the rafting companies, and we know that that's going to be a little bit challenging. We've touched base with them, and then as we get going and start getting into construction, when we have a specific plan for how we're going to do this, we'll reach back out to the rafting companies again at that time. Right now, we're looking at about a $5 to $6 million construction project. That's for a combination of both bridges. The Federal Highway Bridge Program, or HBP, will be funding this 100% at this point. So we're going to move forward with that, proposing to move forward with that. And at this point, I'm going to kick it back to Jessica to try to get back into the real meat of what we're doing today, which is the environmental review.
Thank you, Pat. So being federally funded, this project is subject to both the state California Environmental Quality Act and the federal National Environmental Policy Act. The item before you today is our CEQA document. So we have prepared a draft initial study that was circulated for 30 days through the state clearinghouse, and notification was also provided to area residents as well. That notification was also extended an additional 2 weeks at the request of residents, so we had the 30 days plus 2 weeks. We went a little bit above and beyond our typical CEQA requirements in terms of notification. We actually placed a board out there notifying residents who are out there and visitors to the site, letting them know that we had the initial study available for review. We sent notices both to the mailing addresses of the property owners as well as to the situs addresses, which is something that we typically don't do. So all of the impacts in the initial study were mitigated to a less than significant level, which leads us to the mitigated negative declaration. We had a number of impacts that were identified, but those were all mitigated. The typical construction impacts that we discovered were in air quality, noise, biological resources, cultural and tribal resources, and hydrology and water quality. And I'd be happy to get into any of those that you'd like, but for now I'm gonna plow forward with more of the project-specific impacts that we're gonna see from this project. There are no operational impacts that were identified, meaning that there won't be anything that occurs as a result of replacing and rehabilitating these bridges in the long term. We don't anticipate that these bridges would necessarily invite more people to the area. We're not adding capacity on the bridge either. They're going down to 1 lane. So getting into the project-specific impacts and avoidance measures that we have, The project will be complying with all of the air quality requirements, both the state and the local air district requirements. We'll be protecting the riparian and wetland habitat. Of course, this is a bridge project, so we're going to be in the river for part of the time. And there are a number of mitigation measures to protect those habitats. We have bat roosting mitigation, which is actually typical for a bridge project, in addition to nesting bird mitigation. We will be establishing an environmentally sensitive area action plan for the historic and cultural resources. There were a couple of resources identified, including the old Clinton town site. There will be a lead soil containment and compliance plan for lead that was identified in the soil around the area, as well as on the guardrails of the old bridge. And we have added mitigation to have construction staging occur east of the river to avoid the impacts to the residents in Hirschdale. So during circulation of the draft initial study, we received 8 comments. All of the comments were generally in agreement with the project, but did have some specific concerns to their properties. And those include impacts to air quality, noise impacts during construction, maintaining access to their properties, the safety during construction, and potential septic system conflicts. So we took a look at those comments, and we have actually amended and/or added some mitigation measures. One that we added was in the air quality section to direct generator or compressor exhaust away from residential uses. We received many comments about the construction hours, which were typical construction hours, but we went ahead and reduced those construction hours, so now there will not be any construction allowed on Sundays, and then we reduced the hours on weekdays and weekends as well. We also added a mitigation measure to notify rafting and recreation companies in the area of this project, particularly when we're going to be shutting down access to the river. We also clarified that access will be maintained over the Truckee River Bridge with minimal closures over both bridges, and that final design will avoid impacts to the septic tanks. And then I wanted to mention as well that we just this morning received several letters, and I can go over any of the issues that were discussed in those letters. In particular, there was one from Ms. Cheryl Andreessen on this final initial study. And one of her comments was that a portion of her letter on the draft initial study was from a 2014 community response, and that we had left it out of the final initial study. We do appreciate her adding that to the record at this point, but had actually viewed that as more of a reference document, in which it is now. It is part of, and has been part of the record, and was not something that we would have responded to, because the 2014 letter was on the previous project, which was bridge removal. So we're trying to respond to the comments on the project that we have at hand right now, which is the replacement and rehabilitation. So we have had a lot of public participation on this project, as you know, and there's been a very long process. We believe that we've addressed all the physical impacts of this project, and that the initial study is ready to be adopted by the board. But we would be happy to discuss, any other points that might come up, including, I believe, parking was one as well. If you'd like us to address that, I'd be happy to.
Jessica, thanks very much. Let's wait until after public comment regarding addressing specific issues. Questions for staff at this point?
I think I'd like to wait till after public comment.
With that, let's open it up to public comment. Individuals have 3 minutes apiece. If you would care to come over to the podium and speak, that's your best place, and just give us your name and your thoughts.
Hello, I'm Jamie Cole Rivara. I live on Floreston Avenue at the opposite end from the bridge. I just have issues that I'd like the people in charge to address, and that is, we read in the paper that there's going to be a shuttle service with regards to the bike, and I know that isn't quite the bridge issue, but because the bridge and the bikes have kind of been together, I would like to know if that's been addressed. Also parking, and also biking other than being right on the bike trail, if all those things are being considered, or when's the appropriate time to ask about that. And then lastly, I guess I would just wonder, we have some new property owners down the way on Hurstdale Road, and I know they're concerned about fire hazards. Will there be periods of time when it would be difficult if people were camping and illegally using campfires? Thank you.
Jamie, before you sit down, I'd like to get some clarification. So the shuttle service for bikes, I'm not aware of that. What exactly is that?
You know, it was in the paper a little while ago, and I read it and then put it out of my mind, and then one of my neighbors reminded me of that. So I guess I'm just wondering myself, because it sounded like the bike trail people were going to do some kind of shuttle to Hurstdale for bike riders. So I don't know any more than you. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm wondering if they would require, or if they're discussing parking one's car there and then shuttling from downstream from Nevada back up.
I think those are all the kind of open-ended questions.
And the parking issue is what exactly is that as you see it?
The parking issue that I'm aware of is that almost, as far as I know, all of the property is private in Hurstdale. And people already in the winter are parking in front of, who is it that put up the big sign? There's a plaque by, help me out, Peter, who's? The clampers, thank you. Anyway, and people have already started parking there in the winter as public parking. So again, the concern is there going to be a problem with people who want to bike, say, from Hurstdale to Reno or Hurstdale to whichever way? There's not adequate parking, and I believe we've brought that up in the past as something maybe the county needs to address. And I'm not thinking about today. I'm thinking down the road, because my husband and I were in San Francisco 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't believe, having lived in San Francisco myself, the number of bikers on the roads and how difficult it was getting through. And I'm not saying that's happening to Hurstdale tomorrow, but who knows? And so that's the biking issue which you referenced as your third point? Right, because is there going to be a biking lane on the bridge? And how is that going to affect everything? Well, it's my understanding is it's a one-lane bridge, at least the Truckee River part, with a sidewalk on it. Okay, so we'll all share the sidewalk if you're walking. And you also mentioned fire hazards for folks living down the road. I mean, going down toward. There's no one living down the road, but people have. There's been fires in the past where people camped illegally. And neighbors were walking and put the fires out, thank goodness. So just, again, concerned about our community given the last couple years of fire problems. Okay. I'll raise these questions with staff at the appropriate time. Thank you. Today. So more public comment? Any additional public comment?
Hi, my name is Ron Legg. I've had a house in Hurstdale since 1969. It's on Florissant Road. And I had a few, just one comment that I thought that the environmental study was really thorough, and I was really happy about that. And also, we have the property on the east side of the bridge, where the dirt road is. It turns left now off of the bridge. It goes down. I hit 900 feet of river frontage there. And I'm a little bit concerned about when the bridge is finished, that we still have access to our property. You probably, and also that from what we were told a couple years ago, was they wanted to put the temporary bridge on use our property for the temporary bridge, but we've never heard another word since about it. We don't get any communication at all. Our home is in Reno, but we have both addresses. The Hurstdale, we don't get mail at the Hurstdale address. We get mail at the Reno address. So we haven't been getting any kind of notices. We've had the house on Florissant Road over 50 years. So we have a little bit of question about snow removal. Walking over the bridge in the winter or whatever, you know. Who's going to be in charge of snow removal? And maintenance of the road after it's finished. Who's just a question? Who's going to maintain that bridge? Also, in the wintertime, you know, there's a possibility of having fires on that end of the bridge, the east end of the bridge. And if we had fires down there, if the fire trucks are going to be able to get there. So, I had a question about the fishermen, where they're going to park, because they've been parking in that road that goes onto my property on the east side for years. They've been parking there, but I don't know what's going to happen when that new bridge is built, if they're going to be able to have a place for fishermen to park, because they park all over Hurstdale. And I have my property, all that property posted, but they still use it all the time. They've been using it for years. So it was just a question. Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Legg.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Mr. Andreessen.
My name's Larry Andreessen. I've been a long-term resident in the area, raised a family, 3 kids, and have 3 grandkids. And over the years, fairly recent years, we've had many fires in the Hurstdale area. Juniper fire was turned into the Martis fire. I don't know all the proper names, but the Boca fire, United Trails campground fire, the Rebar Hole fishing point down the river fire, and the Red Hawk fire at Juniper Creek. That's 6 fires in the recent past. And this area is classified as a high-risk wildfire area. And we only have one evacuation route, an emergency response route. And at one point, when the board voted and decided to eliminate the bridges and not replace them, there was the idea of establishing an alternative route through the Tigert Mine property connecting to Stampede Meadows Road. And I was wondering, is there any way that we could revisit that idea and establish an emergency evacuation and emergency response route through that property connecting to Stampede Meadows Road, so that we have a secondary route? There was a lot of work done, a lot of engineering, a lot of design work, a lot of property inventory and surveillance and all that. Not surveillance, but surveying work. And it seems like it would be a really good idea for safety, for wildfire safety.
Thanks, Mr. Andreessen. Any more public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and go into questions for staff. So Mrs. Cole raised 4 issues. The first is shuttle service for bikes, I'm not sure if we can address that because we don't know what the facts are. But the implications are parking issues, obviously. And we have received comments regarding concerns about parking along the street frontage going to the bridges. It's not clear to me at this point in time just how serious that has been a problem in the past. It may become more serious once the Tahoe Pyramid Bike Trail is completed. How would we deal with parking issues at that point in time?
I'll start off with that one. At this point, what I would say is that our project is really to replace existing structures. So when everything's said and done, it's going to be roughly the same as it is today. So as the Pyramid Bike Trail progresses, there may be additional folks that want to come up and ride, but at this point, we don't know. So my thought would be to recommend that we move forward with the project as it is without changing the parking at this point, and then just to keep an eye on it and reevaluate it. And as per businesses grow, bike businesses grow, if there becomes an issue where people are creating an issue with parking, we can always address it at that time. But at this point, we don't know how to address an issue that we're quite frankly, we're not really seeing very frequently.
So the implication is that the residents of Hurstdale should let Public Works and the supervisor know that there's a parking issue when it occurs, so that we can understand its severity and address it.
Absolutely. And if there's additional studies that we need to do to go take a look at, monitor, keep a closer eye on, that's something that we can also do as well.
But it's something which we are willing to address if the problem becomes a serious problem.
Absolutely.
Great. With regard to, and I think that takes care of three of Jamie's questions. With regard to fire hazards, which Mr. Andreessen also raised, Jamie's, I think, it's, I think within the Hurstdale area itself, my understanding is that one of the reasons why we're keeping the bridges is to enhance access, fire suppression access into that area east of Hurstdale across the river. Is that still the case? Is the bridge wide enough for fire vehicles to cross it and to access those lands?
That is the case. The bridges will accommodate standard fire truck loads, so be a lot better than it is right now, quite frankly.
Okay.
So it'll get better rather than worse.
Great. And to address Mr. Andreessen's question regarding evacuation through the Tykert property, I know that the Tykert project is coming before the Planning Commission, I think, later this month. Is there a way for us? Should we incorporate additional ingress egress through that property as a? I mean, clearly they can evacuate onto the east side, but given that fire is two jump rivers, is there a way to get from the east side back up toward Boca Reservoir and such?
I'm trying to think of how to go out big. It's a big topic. Wildfires are certainly on everybody's mind at this point, whether it's on West Slope, East Slope. Absolutely, it's an issue. As far as getting secondary access, I think that's something that we could talk to Tykert about. But because it is private property, I don't know that we can require them to grant access. I would imagine that in a fire situation, people are going to do what they need to do, and if we've got to get out, or the people that are living there have to get out, they're going to do what they need to do to get out. That being said, we can certainly raise the issue with Tykert and talk to them. I know the county's working on an overall fire suppression plan for various areas throughout the county, and that's something we could certainly bring up.
Okay, thanks, Pat. So that's to be determined. With regard to Mr. Legg's questions, and I'm sure you know the location of his property across the river. Will he still retain access to his property once the bridge is finished?
Absolutely.
Okay. The temporary bridge, will that be hitting their property?
Right now, we haven't really got into the design technicalities at this point. What we envision is putting the temporary bridge on the upstream side, so it will tie in adjacent to his property until we get a little bit further in the design. I couldn't tell you if we're going to be 10 feet in, 20 feet in, 30 feet in. I really don't have those numbers at this point, but we would certainly let you know what's going on. Apologize that information hasn't been going back and forth at this point. Things have really been trying to push through the environmental documents, so we haven't gotten into the design where there was a lot of information or new information to convey. So that's why we're here today.
And could we make sure that we have the Reno address? Because they're not receiving mail, as he noted in Hurstdale itself. Snow removal and maintenance of bridges. Two questions, but may have a similar answer. I don't recall how far we remove snow during winter. Do we cross the bridges currently, or do we stop on the west side of the river? And will that continue in the future?
I believe that what we're traditionally have done is just crossed both bridges and then stopped just past the end of the bridge. I understand that this last winter perhaps it wasn't done, or that in discussing it with road crew at this point that they may have stopped on the west side this year. I'm not sure why that was done. We can follow up with them, but traditionally we've pushed across both bridges and created a turnaround in order to get vehicles back and forth across the bridge.
Thank you for that. Let's see. Maintenance of bridges, I presume that's a county responsibility because it's a county project. And with regard to user parking on the east side, anglers, as Mr. Legg indicated, but there are others also who park out there. Do you anticipate any changes to what's going on with regard to a new bridge?
I would say at this point that currently what we're trying to do is set the bridge at the same vertical alignment, if you will, so that all the roads tie in at roughly the same spot. So if folks are going down to park for the fishing, and I know which area that he's referring to, they should still have the same availability to do that. Whether or not that's appropriate or not, and whether they want folks on their property is a different issue. But I would say that at this point, the bridges should be set right at the same elevation that they were before.
Is it fair to say that the trespass issue is an issue for the property owner to deal with rather than the county?
Traditionally, that has been the case. If there is something else that we need to do to take a look at to create parking for fishermen to go down there, I don't know what all the legal access is through those sites. So if somebody wanted to park up on the road or create a parking spot up there, I'm not sure how they would get down to the river. I know what's been done in the past, but I haven't spoken to the legs directly as far as what their feeling is about people trespassing in effect.
Okay. Can we request that you talk with the legs and find out what the exact character of the issue they're facing?
Yes.
Okay. And I think that we've done Mr. Andreessen's questions or question really about fire ingress and egress. So do we have additional questions for staff? Additional comments, Sue?
So I haven't been across that bridge, so I'm just curious. So you're can you get a fire equipment across the bridge?
Yes.
So it's 20 foot across?
It's going to be 16 feet across when we're done.
Plus the sidewalk?
Plus the sidewalk.
Okay, that's what I just wanted.
But it's currently 20, is that right?
It's, in fact, we've got a couple diagrams up there right now, so it's 21 currently. This is the Truckee River Bridge, so as I believe what it's showing there is, looks like about 20, sorry, look up there, about 16 foot lane, another 6 foot, so you can absolutely fit a fire truck across that.
I was looking at that too, so I just wanted to make sure I was, since I'm not an engineer, I want to make sure that's what I was reading.
Thanks, Sue. Ed, any questions or concerns from your side?
I don't think so.
Okay, thanks. We have an action before us, which is a resolution adopting the initial study mitigated negative declaration for the Hurstdale Road Bridges project and directing the director of the Department of Public Works to file a notice of determination with the Nevada County Clerk Recorder and the California State Clearinghouse within 5 days from the date of this action. So we have a motion by Dan, a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
District 2?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes. So thank you all very much for coming in and sharing your concerns with us. And please stay in touch with regard to what you see happening and if there are issues that you see developing. Our Public Works staff, I think, is extremely responsive to concerns from the public. So we appreciate your input and enjoy your day. And with that, we will go into announcements. because it's been a few meetings since we've last had an announcement. So, Dan, do you have anything to, or should we wait one more meeting? Are we ready for announcements?
Okay, we can wait another meeting. I'm good.
Pardon me?
Whatever you want.
Ed, what do you think? Do you want to do announcements?
I do have one.
Let's do announcements in that case.
Jeffrey's doing this.
Thorsby, is he? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sure Jeff is referring to the meeting that Dan and I had and Steve and Allison with the insurance commissioner. Zach?
Good one.
You're welcome.
And I believe that it's pretty well confirmed now and finalized, totally confirmed that he will be in western Nevada County at the event center off of Idaho, Maryland Road on August 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m. And I guess what I would say is that I truly appreciated the commissioner coming to our end of the county and coming to the public and trying to answer some questions for those so many folks that are getting their policies canceled and unable to renew policies. And I also know that there is an effort to get him to come to the eastern side too, because you have exactly the same problems.
And hopefully we can work with Placer County to do something that crosses both jurisdictions.
Yeah, if there's something, if there, I don't think there's anybody in the state that Jeffrey is not afraid to call. I mean, he will call anybody. And he'd probably go international too, if you ask him.
I did make that point to the commissioner. I thought maybe Jeff probably knew more about it than he did.
So announcements on your side? I'm sorry, Ed, are you finished?
Just a couple of things.
Okay.
They did have an executive committee meeting with CSAC, and of course it's getting ready for the formal board meeting coming up. And the focus is primarily on the oncoming onslaught of bills that are coming up, so many of them that we need to be defensive on, bills that Governor Brown may have vetoed in the past that are coming up again, and just trying to get a handle down there. One term that was used in the meeting was it's rather chaotic down there, but there are pieces coming out as to bills that are being posed and bills that are being supported. So we have a regular board meeting coming up in the 1st of September, which should be interesting. And then finally, I spent 5 wonderful days at the Nevada County Fair.
Which is an hour away in Grass Valley. Ed, thank you and Dan for bird dogging the insurance commissioner, and as always, thank you for your service on CSAC. Sue, any announcements?
Well, I'd just like to say that the Sheriff's Department and CAL FIRE came out to North San Juan last night, and we had a fantastic meeting with a full house of people. They did a great job going over fire evacuation on the ridge. It was very much appreciated by the participants. There were a lot of good questions answered. Things are going to add to our website with the questions that are most important that people want to know. It was they just did an excellent job, and I really appreciated the work that went into putting that. Jen Tamo from Emergency Services, she just did a great job, and Jeff, our staff is incredible what they do, and I think it's fun for the community to actually see how much work is going on behind the scenes. You know, sometimes they don't think we're getting anything done, but there is a lot of work being done every day to help work at keeping our community safe. So that was great, and I just want to thank everybody for doing that. It was really good. And I'd also like to point out Bruce Boyd is our new person on the landmarks, and Joe Byrne, and they're both from District 4, and you guys do a terrific job, so I want to thank you for that again. So, and we welcome Bruce to the board. He's new. I've been busy. Fire's kind of on the topic, so I've been to numerous meetings. Had some great meetings with the Forest Service as well as BLM, looking at vegetation management type things. We had a good meeting, and I want to tell you this another thing. I met with a gal, Trish Steele, and she was full of information about broadband. We had a good meeting, and what was exciting is everything she had to talk about we already had been implementing. So Steve Monahan, great
he came and sat in, and it was fun actually to say, yeah, no, we're doing that. We've been there. We got that going on. But she's going to be a new fun part of our group, and I think she'll get involved with the consortium. So I hope she hears this so she remembers she said she'd do that. So that was great. I don't remember if I told you I attended the new Supervisor Institute. Did I do that already? But that it was a fabulous program put on by CSAC, and definitely a benefit for somebody moving into this position as the newbie, and I'm going to call it that. But I learned a lot. I came back and had a lot of questions, because then I said, well, how can we do it this way? Can we do it that way? They're like, oh, did you go? You must have listened a little bit in that class. So thoroughly enjoyed that. We're still working with the CPUC. Heidi and I have been working on the issues we have with AT&T and the lack of landlines and service. And so stay tuned for that, because we're going to try and get some information out on you folks, how to be able to make those complaints and take care of those issues. Let's see what else. I met with Lake Wildwood on fire and Fire Safe Council and Penn Valley Fire Department. We started a program down there. It's called Chat with the Chief. So we meet once a month, once at Lake Wildwood and then once in Penn Valley, back and forth. So folks can come in, and we're going to try and keep that going through the whole year, actually, to keep the communication going, whether it just was fire or with community issues. So that's what we've kind of been doing down in our neck of the woods.
Sue, thanks very much. You have indeed been busy. Dan, anything at this point? Heidi?
Yeah, I'll just tag on. So to follow up from Sue, we're also still active in the Yuba River cohort. So we've been meeting regularly. There's a lot's happening there. I think you've been hearing about it in the Friday memos. We have the bandanas out, which if you've seen them in the West County mostly, probably bandanas that talk about river safety that we're handing out to folks to remind them how to be safe and where to go to get more information. That was a great project that we put together. Jeffrey helped a lot on that. I've been continuing with my Area 4 on Aging Committee. Fortunately, I missed the one that was in Grass Valley this last Friday because we had a special meeting at the board, but I trust that staff was there and that we got a lot done. And same with the first 5 commission. We've been some changes there. Lindsay Dunkel is moving on, so we're going to need to rehire for that position and to keep our programs going that are great programs that are for ages 0 through 5 to get kids early on when they need additional assistance. And then finally, just to talk a little bit more about the National Association of Counties meeting that I mentioned, where Steve Monahan and his team got the IT award. This was the first time this county, I think, has been represented at that association for a long time, if not ever. It was interesting to note, Northern California was very well represented. A lot of our colleagues from counties around us were there. And so, I think it's valuable for us to be there as well. Federal agencies were there in abundance, as well as direct links to the White House. There's a big federal presence at these meetings, and they appear to be interested in county feedback on some of the big issues and legislation that's come up. CSAC was there in force. Our colleagues there also helping to lobby on the issues that we care about. A lot of overlap. The issues that I saw and went to and were raised, a lot of overlap with the rural issues we're seeing here in California. I think just to summarize, I want to say that from the meetings I could get to, when it comes to housing and human health and mental health issues and homelessness issues, we're doing as well, if not better, than all the other rural areas in this country. The panels I went to, what they're talking about doing are things we're already doing in this county. So that was really exciting to hear. There were a lot of interesting issues on public lands that we might want to get more involved with. And then I learned a lot about outdoors recreation in some of the counties in Utah and across the country doing some really creative, innovative work on outdoors recreation that link in with economic development. So I brought some of those ideas back. I have a lot of materials if anybody wants to see them. And I think we'll be staying in touch with this organization. And there's a Western States piece of it as well that we may want to get more involved with. So I was glad to be able to represent the county there. Thank you.
Heidi, thanks very much. And yes, please shift some of that outdoor recreation stuff over in my direction, because that's always been an interest. Ed?
Heidi, there's also one of the Western regional meetings. It's going to be held at Mariposa next year. Am I correct?
I think Spokane is where
Mariposa's handling one.
Okay, I'm not aware of that one, but
Okay.
we should absolutely, in my view, we should be attending.
Yeah, Kevin Can is the chair for the Western Region right now. He's a Mariposa County Supervisor. And if Spokane was where the Western Region was just held, but there's going to be one at Mariposa also.
Great. Quickly, I met with the new Executive Director of Sierra Senior Services. I met with the new Fire Chief of the Washington County Water District, who actually is a prior Fire Chief, Mike Stewart. Met with the Executive Director and the Board Chair of the Nevada County Arts. All of them have requests for Nevada County Services, and I'll be pushing those towards staff. As usual, there was a LAFCO meeting last month, which I attended. The primary issue on it was adoption of municipal service review for wastewater. Truckee River Basin Water Group met recently. I chair that. There have been ongoing meetings with library stakeholders. This is probably the most important aspect of what I've been doing recently. The Truckee area has a group of dedicated library fans who are pushing for a new library, and they're exploring fundraising. They're exploring ways to make it happen. And also they're exploring ways to renovate our existing facility, because it'll be a while before a new library is built. Exploring our existing facility to make it more attractive, more usable by library patrons. And so there have been two committees set up, one a finance committee regarding a new library, and the second is I'll call it a renovation committee to try to figure out what we can do in a cost-effective manner to make the library more pleasant for patrons and to enhance services to the extent we can with the budget we have. So there are meetings going on. And I very much appreciate staff's involvement in this. We probably have too many staff engaged at this point in time, but it's nice to see their dedication to the issue and their interest in helping resolve the concerns we face in Truckee. And finally, I met with the advocates for the Pines to Mines Trail. This is a trail which will, when completed, run from Truckee to Nevada City, and all but roughly 18 miles are in place. Those 18 miles are tough to get a trail on, because they're on the proposed alignment crosses SPI land. And SPI has said that at this point in time they're not interested in assisting trail creation. So we're now not back to square one, but back to square 8 or 9 to determine if there is another way to reconfigure the trail with using Forest Service rights of way. Or Forest Service lands and rights of way that are on SPI property that have already been dedicated for public use. And I think that there may be a way to make it happen. So anyway, that process is ongoing at this point in time, and hopefully within my lifetime I'll be able to walk or bike or ride a horse from Truckee to Nevada City, or the other way. Although that's all uphill. Anyway, with that, we are going to recess for lunch, which will be over at the Truckee Tahoe Airport at 10356 Truckee Airport Road, Boardroom A, just down the street here. And our afternoon session will start there at 12:30. So thank you for attending this morning session, and we will likely see some of you at our afternoon session starting at 12:30 at the airport. So have a good lunch, and thanks for attending.